Hello and welcome back to another episode of my MotoGP 22 career mode, and today we're here for the 10th round of our MotoGP season for the British Grand Prix. If you haven't seen the last episode at the Kazakhstan Grand Prix, I do recommend you go check that one out. Now, of course, it was at the Kimi Ring. I do apologise for the confusion about that, guys. I thought I had sort of explained that it would be the Kimi Ring, but some of you guys were still a bit confused in the comments, so I do apologise for the confusion there. We can't add new tracks to the game, so I have to just repurpose what is already there. It'll be the same thing in a few rounds' time when we get to the Indian Grand Prix as well. It won't be at the Bud International Circuit, it will be at Aragon instead. But either way, it was a pretty interesting race. Pole position for me, but it didn't really go very well. We had contact with Aleix Espargaro, Dana went. It was a comeback ride and a half, back up into the top 10, scored decent points, but the result wasn't fantastic, unfortunately. But at least the race was quite interesting. Marc Marquez picked up his first race win of the season as well, thrusting himself into championship contention. So it was a very interesting episode, and I hope you guys that did see it did enjoy it. So we're here for my home Grand Prix then, the British Grand Prix, and it's not particularly been a strong one for myself in the past. If you remember back to Moto 2, I put it on pole, but then sort of got attacked towards the end. I tried to build out a gap, but didn't quite go to plan. Moto 3, I think something similar happened, so I don't expect the pace to be fantastic around here. It might actually be a little bit better in the MotoGP class. I might be able to make it work a bit more, but I think I'm going to struggle quite a bit, which is not great considering we didn't get the best result in the last round, but that is just how these things go sometimes. So without any further ado, we'll head into the weekend now, and I'll see you after free practice. So at the end of free practice then, you can see we've got a very muddled up order. We've got Franco Morbidelli top of the times, myself in second place, Luca Marini in third, Marco Bezzecchi in fourth place, and Johann Zarco rounding out the top 5. But that's not really where it ends in terms of the weirdness. You can see Oliveira 6th, Augusto Fernandez is 7th, so lots of guys you wouldn't expect to be up there. To be fair, the VR46 guys, that's probably normal, and Zarco, I guess, in the top 5 is not a weird thing to see, but Morbidelli top really harks back to Austin when he obviously picked up that race victory. But it is a weird one. It definitely seems to be quite strange with some of the top guys being quite far down. I do think maybe their simulated times will put them ahead. I'm not too sure. There's only been one other dry free practice session, and that was actually cloudy, so the times might be a bit slower in that one as well, but I'm not really sure how that'll actually pan out, to be honest. But we did manage to do that time then with softs. We did struggle quite a bit on the mediums. Well, I say struggle quite a bit. We were in the top 10, but it did help me find a bit of time. There's probably even more time on the table if I actually put a decent lap together and use the higher power mode. So heading into qualifying, I'm fairly confident we can maybe qualify well, but I do think we are going to suffer on the race pace. It does seem to be the general pattern that the AI are very good at Silverstone. So without any further ado then, we'll head into qualifying. Hopefully we should be into qualifying too, but you never know. So I was absolutely right about the simulated times maybe being a bit faster than the times that I did in that session, because we were 20th fastest on combined times, which you love to see. You love to see. It's probably the worst show we've had so far. Now, in fairness, I only did do 4 laps in practice and did just whack on a set of softs for the final lap, but even still, that's it's not great. I'm not loving that. I'm not loving that potential performance that we've got here, especially since it is my home circuit. I do want to try and do well for the British Grand Prix. I do think there's a bit more time on the table, but there's a lot of fast guys in this session. You can see Aleix Espargaro's in here, Jorge Martin, Bastianini, Quartararo, obviously Morbidelli topped that previous practice session, so plenty of fast guys in here, so we might actually struggle to get out. But we have come through Q1 a fair few times this season already, so it's not completely out of the ordinary. So here we are then. This lap has felt pretty decent, but I'm not 100% sure how it's going to work. You can see Martin gapped us quite a lot on the run to the line. So 1 minute 58.2. I think that's similar to what we did previously. And obviously that was 20th fastest. So that's probably not going to be good enough to get through. That's probably going to be towards the back of the session, which is scary because I don't think there's a lot more time on the table. There is definitely some, but not a lot. So then, Quartararo did improve. In fact, quite a few of the AI did improve, but it was still good enough for me to be second position. Quartararo did top Q1. But there is one thing I'm not too sure about. In the previous games, if you got second place in Q1, there was a bug that put you about 15th, 16th on the grid and just advanced you to the race. So hopefully that bug was fixed on MotoGP 22, but this is the first time that I'm actually getting second place in Q1, so I'm not really sure if that bug is still present. So we should go through to qualifying too, but if I do jump to the grid and I'm in some random grid position, that's why, because it's a bug in the game. But myself and Quartararo should have gone through then, so we should be into Q2. Okay, that's awesome. It seems like it is fixed. It actually did work this time. So we have gone through Q1 into Q2, so there is an opportunity for pole position. I did go back and look at my practice time. I was about 4/10 underneath it, which probably still shouldn't have been enough. But in fairness, it was enough to get us through, which is always great because it's better than starting towards the back. So we'll head straight back out onto the track and see if we can improve upon that lap time, because there might have been some on the table. But like I said, it did feel like a pretty decent lap. So if we could try and match it, although my AI has just crashed for me, which is great. That's really helpful, that is. That really helps me out. I hope I haven't got bike damage from that, because there is damage on in this career mode, even though quite often it's not seen, especially when I have contact or crashes. But there is the ability for me to actually get damage, so I'm hoping that I didn't from that incident. But here we go then. Ready to start our first Q2 lap. So here we are then, coming up towards the line. Obviously, we've got to keep it as tight as we can through the last corner, up towards the line. What's it going to be? 59.1. That's massively slower than the previous lap in qualifying 1. Wow. Okay, well, we've got to go and do something else, because that was awful. That lap felt similar, I guess. Maybe a couple of mistakes, but not a second's worth. I'll tell you what, we're in trouble here. We have got to do another lap here. I might try and get on the back of Binder, because I've got to try and find a second just to do what I did in the previous session. Well, there's some interesting times that have been put on the table here, because we're actually quicker than a lot of riders that are setting times here. Zarco, Oliveira, and Marini are all a good chunk slower than me, which is strange because I'm a good chunk slower than the AI, so I think we've got one of those weird qualifying sessions happening here. So this one has been a much improved lap up towards the line, 0.6 of a second. Where's that going to put me? Pole position currently. So we've got up to pole position. Quartararo in second because Bagnaia is still on the lap. And there's still plenty of time to go in this session yet. 6 minutes to go. But a 58.5, still slower than what we did in Q1 actually. But we've just run out of fuel. So that's probably the end of the session for us. And probably in total, it'll probably actually end the session once the bike comes to a stop. But yeah, slightly slower than in Q1. But a decent improvement thanks to a good tow from Binder. Well, that was certainly a surprise then. Miguel Oliveira takes pole for the British Grand Prix aboard his RNF Aprilia. Our teammate Alex Marquez a quarter of a second behind in second position. Francesco Bagnaia finally gets a good qualified position with third place there. Zarco in fourth, and I ended up in fifth position. So in fairness, if I had done my time from Q1, I think I would have been P4, so I'd have moved up one spot, but ultimately that was quite a bit of time to find for only one position. That Q1 lap must have been pretty good. I did say there wasn't much more time on the table, but it must have been a very, very good lap because I haven't been able to get near it. Even with a tow, I probably should have been quicker, but I did start battling with Binder towards the end of the lap because there were sections where I was losing a decent amount of time. I was like 1.1 underneath after sector 1, and that slowly just dissipated as he held me up through the sort of club section. Then I tried to pass him sort of into village, and then we had a bit of a battle, which I guess cost me a bit, and then I was a little bit probably too careful through Luffield and Brooklands, but even still, not a terrible lap time in Q2 there, but obviously what was a very good lap time in Q1. Top 5 position for a track where I don't tend to go too well. I'll absolutely take it. So we'll head into the race now then. A bit of a different grid. We've got a teammate to aim at there, but fortunately none of the championship rivals are really in front of me, so not too much pressure. Just got to try and get a decent start and maintain position. So here we are then, down on the grid for the British Grand Prix, looking at Fabio Quartararo in 7th position. And I'm really not sure what to expect in this one. Obviously, I'm going to try the normal strategy of trying to get a good start, because I know they are going to be stronger than me. They're going to be really aggressive as well. It's one of those tracks where, obviously, you need to take flowing lines, but the AI don't do that sometimes, and they will just dive bomb you, and it upsets your rhythm, you lose time, you end up getting knocked off and stuff like that. It is one of those quite dodgy tracks to have to race the AI at, so I'm not super looking forward to the battling. I know it's going to be a bit aggressive, but I guess my plan is just to try and get to the front early. 5th place does give us a good opportunity to do that, but a short run to turn 1 does not, so it will be interesting. But in terms of tyres, I think we're going to go with the soft front, because once again we're being recommended that, and that actually worked fantastically in the Kimi ring. And also something I have sort of discovered after kind of returning to this career mode and doing a bit more tyre experimentation is that if you give the front more grip than the rear, it kind of fixes the physics issues that are in this game with the... It doesn't completely do it, but it mitigates it, because obviously the front is very weak in this game. So if you give it a bit more grip, it kind of just gives you that performance and the ability to push a little bit more, which is obviously always welcome, especially at a circuit where usually I struggle. But without any further ado then, let's head into the race. This could be a close one.
The riders have been greeted by a fantastic atmosphere here at Silverstone. They're all lined up for the start, ready for some British Grand Prix action.
So then, Oliveira on pole position, Alex Marquez in second, Pecco rounds out the front row, but here we are in 5th place, and the lights are on, waiting for them to go here at Silverstone. Lights out and away we go. And our initial jump off the line's been pretty good, but Alex Marquez sort of come over to block us a little bit into turn 1. We're on the inside of the pole man. Oliveira tries to go on the outside of Zarco, but it's not worked out for him. We're up to 3rd place, so we've had a pretty decent start. I do feel sorry for Oliveira losing a couple of places there, but I'm sure he will fight back through. The world champion Bagnaia leads the race currently. A little bit of contact there with Miguel Oliveira as I ran a bit wide. You can see the 2 Ducatis out front already trying to get away because I've just not got the pace at all here. It is going to be a defensive masterclass. Well, maybe not a masterclass, but it's going to be an attempt at defending a position that I don't really have the pace to keep. But maybe on this opening lap I could do something about it, because usually they are a little bit slower on the opening laps, but we've ran really wide through Stowe. That's not what I needed to do at all. Has allowed Oliveira through. Fortunately, it's just Oliveira, nobody else. Back around the outside we go of the Portuguese man, back up into 3rd position. So it maintains the Ducati 1, 2, 3 at the moment, but Zarco is looking all over the back of Bagnaia. He's looking really, really desperate to try and get past his fellow Ducati stablemate. Of course, Bagnaia sort of got the target on his back with that number 1 with the factory seat as well. And Zarco, of course, never winning a MotoGP race, so he'll be absolutely desperate to do so. Although I'm not sure whether he actually has in this season already or not. Obviously, in real life, he hasn't ever won one, but I don't know whether he actually has in this season. I feel like he's not, but maybe he has. But Bagnaia goes wide. Through goes Zarco. So 2 races in a row then. Bagnaia makes a pretty critical mistake, although this time he didn't end up on the ground, so I guess it's an improvement over the last race at Kazakhstan where he crashed at the final corner with a few laps to go. Zarco then hits the front here. At the British Grand Prix, we have closed up quite a bit to them through this sector actually, which is interesting because they had pulled quite a bit on me earlier on. So through the first sector they did gain quite a bit. We've gained a lot of it back and we've pulled away from Oliveira a little bit. So maybe my pace through this sort of last sector is pretty decent. So we might actually be able to go with them to an extent, which would be a surprise. Because again, I was expecting to sort of just drop back through the pack like I was on the first sector. But somehow we've managed to actually get our stop for turn 1 because I braked on the curb. That was a big mistake. We're actually keeping with these guys so far. And somehow I didn't absolutely wipe Bagnaia out into cops. It's just the direction changes. They're so much better than the player through the direction changes. You can see how hard it is for me to change direction. I'm having to open up the corner so much to actually achieve it. And again, they've got 4 tenths on me. 4 tenths back to Oliveira for myself. So this time, I don't want to make a big mistake into Stowe. I want to actually maintain the gap to them. So here we are then down towards Vale, and you can see we have all closed up quite a bit. They're really slow through this section of the track actually, and we've got on the inside of Bagnaia. Bagnaia didn't really pick up there, but he did give us the space, so fair play to Pecco, because the AI do tend to turn on you quite a bit. So there we go through Club, a little bit of contact with Bagnaia there on the exit, and then he sort of weaves across the track. Very, very strange, but we're up into P2 now then at the British Grand Prix, and I must say, I'm feeling a lot more confident now than I was previously, because we're on lap 2 here, and I'm actually making passes on the AI, which I did not expect at all. Especially considering our actual pace over this weekend has not been great. But I think this is typical what you get. The AI are slower in the race, but Zarco goes super wide there through the loop, and we take the lead of the British Grand Prix at home. So I'm leading my home Grand Prix here on the Gresini Ducati, overtaking 2 riders in the space of about 3 corners. So we hit the front here then, but I know it's going to be tricky to keep it from here. We've braked way too late for Brooklands. I've made a bigger mistake than Zarco did. So we've braked way too late. We've come back onto the circuit. We're in 4th place now then. Almost 5th as my teammate tries to got the inside. Well, it is going to be 5th, I think. As he kind of forced me a little bit wide there. But that was a huge error. Come on, man. This is not a track where I could afford to make an error like that. I've not got the pace. We're right behind Alex Marquez. Now trying to go around the outside. Down towards Copse Corner. Around the outside of Alex Marquez. We go back up into P4. But we've got a lot of time that needs to be made up here, and not a massive amount of time to do it in. But we have seemingly got the pace around most of this circuit, so maybe, just maybe, we can still get on the podium here. So once again, on the back of the AI through the section where they do struggle. Through Club Corner, turn 10. Oliveira has managed to maintain the position in front of us, but you can see the 2 Ducatis once again are starting to stretch away from him, so we are going to have to try and make the pass in this section of the track, but it's going to be tricky because it's hard to pass through here. And now I'm under attack from Alex Marquez behind, so I've got to watch out myself. But if he goes a little bit wide into the loop, this could be once again a free position. Zarco goes wide, makes the same mistake that he made the previous lap, and Bagnaia made on lap 1. So it does seem like maybe it's just one of their lines, but then the other AI are also undercutting them, so I'm not sure what's going on. Oliveira takes a long look at me on the straight just to see how close I am. But I tell you what, as we're about to start this penultimate lap, it is going to be super close. This time we actually keep on track through Brooklands. I considered a pass on Oliveira, but it just would have been a bit too sketchy. But we did definitely have the advantage on him over there. But it's lovely to see Oliveira at the front, it must be said, because I've expected him to come good all season, but he's not really had the pace at any round. But it does seem finally here the Aprilia is working pretty well with him, and he's in a good position. But he's made a bit of a mistake through Cop's corner. We're going to have to try and take advantage of this. Use power mode 3. We've got to beat him to the next section. I think we have done so. So up into P3. Once again, it's a Ducati 1, 2, 3. And I've got to try everything I can now to catch back up to Bagnaia and Zarco. Although I've just immediately let Oliveira back through by making a mistake there on the curb, which is not ideal at all, because I've now got to repass Oliveira. And once again, he is really fast, so it's not going to be easy, but we might be able to get him on the straight, then down towards Stowe on the brakes. Don't want to have to risk it into Stowe, though, because the front is pretty sketchy into Stowe. And I've gone wide. And Oliveira comes back through again. We're just costing each other time here. I think Zarco and Bagnaia might have got away, and we're looking at the inside into Vale on Oliveira. He tries to turn into me a little bit. We've been onto the sausage curb there. Somehow stayed on. It's compromised Oliveira. Can we have a look at the inside into Club? Just going to have to roll the throttle there. But definitely the chance at the win is over here. We are fighting for a podium, definitely. As we go up the inside into Abbey. That's a risky place to pull a pass. But I think we've pulled it down. Oliveira's trying to come back on the outside. He tries to cut the inside through Farm. But I think we have now got it. So we're up into P3 once again. You can see Bagnaia and Zarco are way too far in front. We're not catching them up. Oh, Marquez has crashed behind. Alex Marquez has had a crash behind, so not sure what's happened there. Whether there was contact or what. Oliveira's dropped down, so I think maybe Oliveira went wide to the loop. Alex Marquez tried to cut underneath him, and it's all gone wrong. So now we've got a clear shot at these two in front. Now, I actually do need to watch out for my fuel, because I'm minus 0.2 laps, so no power mode 3 on this last lap is going to be available. So I think I'm just going to be a bit of a sitting duck here. I just need to try and do a good lap, make sure Miller doesn't get too close, because obviously Alex Marquez and Oliveira having their collision has kind of nullified those guys. It's given me a bit of a gap now over the chasing pack. Oh, Bagnaia! Bagnaia's crashed 2 races in a row. Pecco Bagnaia crashes here on the last lap, which promotes us up to second place here at this British Grand Prix. Zarco is home and dry. Zarco's definitely winning this one now because I did a appalling first sector. Jack Miller's all over the back of me now. I'm going to have to watch my fuel because we are still minus 0.1 laps and I don't know how accurate it is, so it could be a little bit of a percentage either way. So I need to save fuel. I need to maintain position, but Johan Zarco looks like he's going to be taking potentially his first race win of the season here. We picked up a Challenger's warning there, but you know what, it doesn't matter. We've still got 4 more warnings on the rest of this lap, so we should be fine. We've made a bit of a mistake into Vale on the way in there, and that was probably an opportunity to make up a lot of time on Miller. So now we're under fire from our championship rival. There he is, Jack Miller. We're still on minus 0.0 fuel, so we're going into power mode 1 just to try and save it till the end of the lap now. Here comes Miller. He's trying to find a way through, but so far we're just keeping him at bay. We're at plus 0.00. So we're literally margin on the fuel, 0.1. But I'm going to keep it in power mode 1. I've made this mistake before where I've put it back up into power mode 2 once we've got underneath. And then we've still run out anyway. So we're going to have to keep power mode 1, which is going to make me a sitting duck on the run into Brooklands. In fact, we're not even probably going to get to Brooklands ahead of him. So here we are then. Jack Miller is all over the back of us. It might be worth just giving up this position. It might not be worth it. Chucking away 20 points. But he hasn't attacked us into Brooklands, surprisingly, actually. We've managed to just about keep it. And here we go. I'm just going to stick it up into power mode 2 once again now. Just for the run to the line, so he doesn't drag me to the run to the line. But Zarco then's got 2.6 seconds over us. We've held up the pack behind massively on this last lap. But we are going to come home in second place, just ahead of Jack Miller. What a race that was. Well, once again, not the race that I was expecting. You can see in terms of the lap times then, 1 minute 58.9 was pretty much the lap time of everybody. So a bit slower than what they were doing in qualifying. I'm actually quite surprised that I was that fast in the race. But it definitely is much, much easier when you are following someone in front of you to do the lap times. But you did see in that race, perfect example, some parts of the track I was fast, some parts of the track that I were fast. I was on the limit, I was making mistakes. If I hadn't made that mistake at Brooklands, that could have been our race victory today, but you don't know how these things are going to pan out. Obviously, I had to maintain the fuel and lost a lot of time to Zarco on that final lap, so potentially we would have lost the race anyway, and perhaps it wouldn't have been Bagnaia going down, it could have been myself. I do feel sorry for Oliveira though. He was pole position, he was on the podium for a lot of that race, but did just miss out at the end. It seemed like there was some sort of contact between himself and Alex Marquez. I might have a little look at that on the replay. But surprisingly though, Fabio Quartararo actually rounds off the top 5, which is pretty interesting. Marc Marquez in 6th place, Maverick Vinales 7th, Jorge Martin in 8th, and Morbidelli in 9th place. So I think I'm going to have a little look to see where Enea Bastianini ended up. He was down in P16, which is obviously not exactly where he wanted to be. Alex Marquez in 18th place after remounting, so it does suggest that maybe these guys crashed, because Brad Binder as well, he was a Q2, so he's quite far down the order, so potentially he was involved in some sort of incident also. Looking at the championship standings then, we now extend our lead to 28 points. Jack Miller leapfrogs back up into second position in the championship. Of course, he did have a pretty poor round in the Kazakhstan Grand Prix, but he has now got back up into second place. Marquez remains in third now, 30 points behind. Enea Bastianini drops to fourth, 32 points behind. Bezecchi drops out as well. Zarco jumps up to 6th place in the championship. Quartararo up to 7th. Marini drops out to 8th. And Alex Marquez drops down to 9th. But you can see it is very, very close. Only 4 points separating 2nd to 4th in the championship, so super close. And I've only got 28 point leads. That's only 1 race wins worth. So if we have another race where we get knocked off or something and fail to score, then everything does bunch right back up. As for the Teams Championship then, we continue to lead now, 30 points clear of Red Bull KTM factory races. So once again, it seems to be the same gap that we are leading the championship by, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, actually, we're leading by 28 points, so it isn't quite the same, but I'm sure the gaps were the same previously. The Red Bull KTM factory racing then move up to 2nd position. Ducati Lenovo move down to 3rd. Muni VR46 move down to 4th. And Prima Pramac move up to 5th position. Finally, onto the Constructors' Championship then. Another win for Ducati means an even bigger lead for them. 96 points clear of KTM now in 2nd position. Honda sat there in 3rd place, 18 points clear of Aprilia in 4th. And Yamaha are now only 3 points back of Aprilia in 5th position. Obviously, the main Aprilia scorer this time was Miguel Oliveira. A fantastic weekend for him. I do feel sorry for him because he was excellent to put it on pole position, rode really well in the race as well, but he seems to have had some incident that certainly cost him. So I think I will go and have a look at that incident now to see exactly what happened, and then after that we'll head back to the Career Hub, see what we got from the weekend, and then end off the episode. So if we actually look at what happened here then, it is all on Alex Marquez. So it actually wasn't quite how I thought it was. I thought that into the loop perhaps Oliveira ran wide, and then they sort of came back together as they sort of rejoined, the 2 lines crossed. But actually, it was Alex Marquez going for a pretty ambitious move. It wasn't over the line or anything. He just kind of messed it up, lost the front, and went into him. And unfortunately, he took out one of the VR46 guys as well. I'm not sure which one that was. It's Marini. So he took out Luca Marini as well, and Brad Binder. So that's what happened to those guys. That's how they all got involved in their incidents, unfortunately. So it sort of was a chain reaction of Alex Marquez making a bit of a mistake. I mean, in fairness to him, it's not out of order. I mean, I'm pretty sure we pulled a similar move potentially in the race at some point. It's not the inside, it's not too bad, but he just kind of runs out of road, and there's just, it's unfortunate contact, really. It's that sort of typical thing that you get when they are on your outside. Their sort of rear end, your rear end sort of goes into their front, because Oliveira could have picked the bike up here, but yeah, it's unfortunate. I'm not really going to particularly put blame on either rider, obviously. It is Alex Marquez's responsibility to get it stopped on the apex, of course, but you can see my line, he's pretty much on my line, in fairness. He's a little bit wider, potentially. Actually, yeah, it looks more like Oliveira's on my line, actually. You can see he's gone for a move. It's not like ambitious. Well, he is ambitious, but it's not ridiculous. He's not too far behind, but just unfortunate there was contact between the two of them, and it resulted in ruining pretty much both their races. Obviously, Oliveira still got a decent result, but Alex Marquez miles back. So then from that weekend, we gained 8,200 reputation, which takes us up to 300,400 reputation. As for the credits, we gained 29,280, which takes us up to 812,838 credits. So here we are then, back in the Career Hub, and you can see we have got a little notification on the headquarters, so we can put an engine upgrade on. And that one will take 6 weeks, so it will be a while till we see that one, but we should get it before the end of the season. So now, of course, we do need to advance forward to the next Grand Prix, 1 week till the Austrian Grand Prix, and there we are then, no more notifications. So that pretty much does bring this episode to a close. So I hope you guys have enjoyed that one. A really, really good race. I actually really enjoyed it. I think so, as you can tell in my commentary, when I'm really getting into the battle and enjoyed a bit of a scrap, because the AI weren't too stupid, to be honest. They were actually pretty fair, which is quite rare. They were quite fair with me, I will be honest, especially Bagnaia. Remember, he left me a lot of room. I think the only dodgy part really was, obviously we did have a bit of contact with Bagnaia on the exit of a corner, which may have been slightly my fault, I do apologise, but the only really dodgy section was when I was up the inside into the Vale corner of Oliveira, and he pinched me towards the curb. That is one of the AI things. If you see my previous career modes on previous games, I actually had contact with Sam Lowe's there on the MotoGP 21 career mode. That's just what they do, they turn them on you. And to be honest, I actually thought back to that incident all that time ago, probably like a year ago, over a year ago, like a year and a half ago probably. Remembered back to that incident and just dived for the sausage curb. I just tried to avoid it, we just got it through, and it was a lovely little close battle there. I tried to stick it at the inside of him at club as well, which was obviously a bit of a tricky place to try it, but it was a good battle. I really did enjoy it, so I hope you guys did as well. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I hope you're all staying safe, and I shall see you in the next one.